Hello and welcome to Unmuted. I'm your host, Courtland Warren. This is a podcast about finding your voice so that you can change your world. Question: are you a person who really gives? Like you're a person who gives and gives and gives. Maybe you're the type of person who you're willing to give until it hurts. You'll give the proverbial shirt off your back and then find yourself naked. Do you have the same attitude, though, when it comes to receiving? If you're a person who gives and gives and gives, do you have that same energy as it relates to you allowing other people to give to you? It's pretty common to have those who give and give be the ones not willing or even able to receive. What's that about? What if I told you that your willingness to give and give but not allow anyone to give to you was really about control, perhaps even manipulation? And at some level, it reinforces a belief of undeservedness and I'm not good enough. So if you're a person who gives and gives to other people, but you don't allow anyone else to give to you, recognize that then when you set it up like that, they always owe you. Right? You set it up to they are always indebted to you, and you're not going to allow them to pay it back. Now, you may say that, well, that's not the case because you were giving unconditionally and you didn't expect something in return. But really ask yourself, really examine what is the thinking, what is the thought process that keeps you from or that will prevent you from allowing someone else to give to you. When your giving is truly unconditional and you like the feeling that you get when you give to someone else and you see the smile that your gift produces, recognize that when you don't allow someone else to give to you, then ultimately you rob them of that same experience. And so it is subjectively it is or can be a form of manipulation. You're going to give but never let them repay. But it can also be rooted in a belief of unworthiness or belief of I'm not deserving. So you give and give and give, but you don't allow anyone to give to you. How come? Is there a part of you that believes that you can give until you deserve? Perhaps there's some debt that you feel you haven't repaid. Some karmic debt that hasn't been resolved. And so you give and give and you produce and you produce in hopes that you'll eventually get to the place that you deserve what you've been asking for. This idea or question came up as I was working with a client recently who noted that she works and works and works hard, gives and gives and gives, but yet nothing is ever enough. And I said to her, I said, well, what if you discovered that all of the work that you've been doing, all of the seeds that you've been planting, there is that now is harvest time. That all of the work that you've been doing, all of the work that you've put in has now, when all of the work that you put in during the winter, and now it's spring. And that all of your work is now bearing fruit, and it's time for you to go and reap the harvest. It's harvest time. And it was an idea, a concept that she really hadn't considered. And so when we began to explore that more deeply. We started to explore that more deeply. It's like, wow, okay, well, why would I put in so much work and I 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 work as though this work is never going to materialize, as though the work that I'm putting in, I am not going to ever realize that which I say I want. And so really underneath that, there is this idea or this belief that I can work myself to worthiness. I can work myself to being deserving. So whether it is subjective manipulation, someone always owes, but you're not going to let them repay, or a belief that you're not worthy of or deserving of being given to, both are evidence of a voice that has been muted. Both are evidence of a voice that has been silenced. And so there is a framework that we can use to go beyond just putting in all of the work to where we allow ourselves to receive. What is a framework for allowing? What is a framework for receiving is what we're going to explore in this episode. Because it can be a helpful tool for individuals who struggle with accepting compliments or gifts or even assistance from others. One of the things that you're going to want to do in moving from just giving and giving and giving and then resenting that you don't receive, well, you might note that you don't receive because you push the gifts away. And so first, if we look at a framework for how to receive or how to accept that someone else wants to give to you in the same way or the same vein that you give to other people, first is to acknowledge the gift, the compliment, or the assistance. When someone offers you something, acknowledge it with gratitude, a simple thank you, and let the person know that you appreciate the gesture. And what you're really communicating is that you appreciate that they see you. That is not egotistical. That is not narcissism. That is you embracing it. And I mean, when I acknowledge, it doesn't have to be returned with a compliment to them. So let's say someone compliments you on your, oh man, nice shoes. You say, oh, these old things, I picked these up at the, thrift shop, yada, yada, right? Essentially diminishing or deflecting. An incredible practice for go-getters, an incredible practice for high achievers is to, when someone recognizes the work that you've put in, is to simply say thank you and leave it there. So often this mindset or attitude is built because there's someone that we want to see it. There's someone, we have an individual in mind. We have an individual in mind that we want to recognize what we've accomplished. We want that individual, that sole individual, to recognize and appreciate what we've created and what we've done. Maybe mom, maybe dad, a brother, a sister, someone who's a former relationship, or someone who said that you couldn't do it, never would do it, and so forth. And it's that individual that we're looking to prove wrong. And because we're waiting on them to see it, we can miss that other people recognize it. How dire is the mindset of the individual who's looking to prove to an individual who may never see, while missing that there are others who see you and recognize you. They recognize your greatness. To move from an environment where you're being taken advantage of, to move from an environment where you're being manipulated into an environment where you're appreciated, is so much more rewarding and also fulfilling. You might note, okay, well, all right, we acknowledge, right? We first then acknowledge. And then beyond the acknowledgement, there is the acceptance. There is the receiving of the gift or compliment. Allow yourself to receive what is being offered. Now, this is a part that can be difficult for some people because, and it is important to remember that accepting the gift is not a sign of weakness. Accepting the assistance, accepting the help is not a sign that you're weak. I have known in my work, I've known people who wanted to do it all by themselves because if they did it all by themselves, then they feel they earned it. And if someone assisted, if someone helped out, then there was a part of them that felt that the accomplishment was not theirs. So allowing yourself to not only acknowledge that you hear it, that you see it, that you see, that you recognize the gesture, to acknowledge it, but then to move to phase 2, it's the accepting of it, to allow yourself to take it in. And once accepting, you then move to a place of gratitude within this framework, and you show your appreciation for what has been given, or you show your appreciation for what has been done, and letting the person know that you're grateful for their kindness and that it means a lot to you. And what you're actually expressing is that, you know what? I recognize that you see me. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for recognizing that I have worked hard. Thank you for recognizing the work that I put in. And rather than hold out hope or the expectation that an individual will see it, you can be waiting so long for that one person to see it that you miss the hundreds or the thousands who are saying thank you already. So you acknowledge it, and then you accept it, express gratitude for it, and then we can move to a place of, in this framework, stage 4, paying it forward. Consider how you can pay it forward and help someone else in the future. The greatest repayment might be that you pass it on. And knowing that you passed it on can be a way for you to feel good about receiving it in the first place, right? Because it didn't stop with you. It didn't stop with, again, you. You took the gift, you accepted the gift, and then you moved on, or you accepted the gift and then you produced more from it, and you were able to, and that bit of assistance able you to help or assist someone else. And then number 5 is you practice self-compassion. And you practice self-compassion by remembering that it is okay to receive and that you deserve to be treated with respect and kindness. Because just as you give to other people, you are worthy of being given to. The work that you put in and all of the things that you do to create success, to create abundance, the lifestyle that you desire to achieve, that which you want to have in your life. It may be that it's present currently and you continue to push it away because you're not ready yet, or you haven't done enough work. Is the internal dialogue or the question, the internal dialogue or the conversation that you're having with yourself is, I've not done enough yet to receive. I've not yet done enough to allow. But if you'll follow this framework, you are able to accept help, compliments, gifts, gratitude, kindness from others, and so forth. But you keep the cycle, okay? You keep the reciprocity alive, right? That which does not move stagnates and dies. That which does not move that which does not move will experience depression. So the reciprocity, the give and take. I am not saying don't give, and a lot of you, I know a lot of my listeners are your givers, and you will, you'll give until it quote unquote hurts. You'll put yourself out there, and the people in your life know who to call. They know who they can depend on. You find yourself bending over backwards for someone else, and just as you see that they are deserving of assistance and help, what is it that keeps you from seeing that you deserve it also? That's what we're getting at. Is for you to recognize that you too deserve to receive. In fact, the biggest taker of all is the person who will not receive. Once upon a time, there was a man, we'll call him Jack. And Jack had always been a hard worker. He had built a successful business from the ground up. He worked tirelessly day and night, pouring all of his time and his energy into his work. As Jack's business grew, so did his success. He became known as a leader in his industry, and people looked up to him as a role model. They were inspired by what he had created. But despite his success, Jack had a hard time enjoying his accomplishments. It was as though no matter what he did, nothing was ever enough. Every accomplishment was just a springboard to the next thing. Every goal achieved was just a springboard to what are we going to do next. And who suffered was his family, his children. Nothing, those who supported him and wanted to see him win found it difficult to do so because it seemed that nothing was ever enough and we were never going to have a point where we celebrated. You see, Jack had worked so hard for so long that he had forgotten how to receive. He was so used to giving his all to his work that he didn't know how to take a step back and enjoy the fruits of his labor. It was as though he was constantly or perpetually planting, forgetting that when there's planting, there must be time of reaping. There's a seed time and there's a harvest. One day, Jack met this wise man who could see that he was struggling. He could see that Jack was not fulfilled, even though the success was there, and even though the accolades were there, and even though the respect from peers were there, and the respect from industry was there, something was off. And this old wise man took Jack under his wing and began to teach him about the importance of receiving. He taught Jack how to appreciate smaller things in life, how, to take in a beautiful sunset or enjoy a good meal. He showed him how to take time for himself and enjoy simple pleasures. And slowly but surely, Jack began to see the world in a new light. He learned that it was okay to take a break from work and enjoy the things that truly mattered. Over time, Jack became happier and more fulfilled. He learned that success was not just about working hard, but also about taking the time to enjoy the fruits of labor. He began to see that in the cycle of achievement, the acknowledgement and the celebration is extremely important. That those who don't allow themselves to receive actually take from other people. He began to see that his view on receiving was actually rooted in the fear of loss in relationship. He had set it up in his relationships that no one would ever have to give him anything because, or in his view was that if he never needed anything from anyone, then there was no way that he could be a burden to them. That's right. He viewed it as, if I don't have to ask for anything, then there's no way that I can be a burden. And if I'm not a burden, then they'll have no reason to leave. And so as it turned out, Jack's giving was actually his survival mechanism. His survival mechanism against a belief that he would be abandoned or left alone or rejected. And so it may be with you that the difficulty that you have in receiving is rooted in a belief that you don't deserve, or rooted in a belief that you asking for assistance or you asking for help will actually be a burden to someone else. Perhaps you've muted yourself because your dream or goal is so big. Your dream and aspiration are so astronomical. The vision that you have is so huge that you know you can't do it alone, and yet you're unwilling to ask for assistance. And so you know that you can't do it alone, yet you're afraid to ask for help. This can, in fact, leave you muted. It leaves you muted, and as a result, the world doesn't get to experience that which you have to offer. And so my challenge to you and recommendation in this week, when you receive a compliment, say thank you and nothing else. When someone asks if you need a hand, when someone asks or offers up support, accept it. Make it a practice, make it an exercise. And notice if it feels uncomfortable. Notice if it feels challenging and or difficult. But get used to allowing, get used to receiving. How else will you know when that which you've longed for actually arrives? You may find that you have indeed been doing the work. You've been doing the work that justifies the success and the outcomes that you want. What if you found out that you've actually been doing the work, and because you've done the work, it's now harvest time? I hope that's the case for you. And I hope this episode, I hope it helps. If it does, don't keep it a secret. Let someone know that it exists. I'm grateful for you. We look forward to hearing from you. If you have questions about today's content, or if you have questions about how we can support you further, just reach out to info@courtlandwarren.com. That's info, INFO, at Courtlandwarren, CourtlandWarren.com. If you haven't already, I encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you'll go to courtlandwarren.com and just enter your email address, download the ebook, join the mailing list. And I promise to I only will show up in your inbox if I believe that what I'm showing up with is of value to you. Thanks a lot for listening. We'll see you next time.